So here's the thing. A few years ago, I was a people leader living in the corporate world and very content with my own job. No real idea of where I wanted to go with my career at all and fairly comfortable. And then suddenly, I was hit with the news that my dad had stage 4 cancer. My entire world just went upside down and it felt so intense. And having the knowledge that he was no longer going to be with me in such a short period of time afterwards. He was in his mid to late 60s, and this was all due to asbestos when he worked in his early 20s. Now, this podcast is simple. I will share stories of how people have faced adversity in life and how they've come through the other side, and anything else that's on my mind around well-being. Now, this is not scripted at all, and in this first episode, I wanted to share with you what I do now and how the passing of my father put me on a path to qualify as a master practitioner in hypnotherapy, neuro-linguistic programming and life coaching. So, this is a path to self-healing. My name's Chris Leather, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Thank you very much for being here.
No problem.
For those of you that don't know Tom, I've asked him to come on here today, with him being a friend for many years, and I'd like to think that you know me, probably as well as anybody else could know me in terms of my close set of friends. But we don't really talk about what I do, and I guess really what I wanted to do today is just explain to people what I do, and then, you know, and what I want to get out of this really is just to be open really and truthful about me and tell people a little bit around the services I offer and how I can help people. So I guess it's over to you really, just to sort of ask me whatever you want to ask me.
Well, thank you for the invite. I mean, it's a bit new to me. I've never done anything like this before, but yeah, it's a pleasure. Like it's really inspirational to see what you've done in the last however many years it's been since you've been on this journey. And like you say, I don't really know the ins and outs of everything, so it's inspirational for me to see the change. I obviously know you really well, like you said, but the listeners might not. So why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Gosh, well, if I go, I was born in 1981 in a town called Otley, which is in Leeds, and my first paid job was when I was 13, and I did. I was a trapper for clay pigeons, you know, shooting the clay pigeons in the sky and then shoot them down. And I did that for £10 for a full day on a Sunday, which was a lot to me. It was £10 at the time. And then I got a job at Morrison's, which was when I was getting towards the end of doing sixth form, for about 2 years. And then after that, I was a bit stuck after I finished my sixth form when I did a GMVQ in business. And then I didn't really know what to do. I was just lost, really. I didn't have any clear set direction or passion, I guess, of what I wanted to do and achieve, you know, with my life. So my cousin at the time was a team leader at a corporate company, which we've both worked for, the same corporate company. So I applied there, and then I spent pretty much 20 years, half my entire life, working in the corporate world. Worked my way up, became a team leader, and I did love it. I loved the job, and then tragically about 3 years ago, completely out of the blue, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer, which was terminal, stage 4. And we knew that he only had a year and a half, roughly, was his time frame that he had left. And and then after that put me on this path, I guess, of getting really into mental health and mental well-being and self-help and reading books
Right.
watching YouTube videos, things like that, and that kind of put me on this journey that I'm on today, really.
Okay, so how did you get here? How did you get to the point where you wanted to record a podcast to help spread your message?
So podcasts, gosh, I came across podcasts probably about 2 years ago, and I've never listened to them before, and I just love them. I became obsessed with them. It was the depth of the conversation that that you can listen to throughout it. And I kind of said to myself, "Well, shall I do one day? I'd love to do a podcast." And to be honest with you, I probably felt a little bit of self doubt because you tend to think that you're going to be vulnerable and people are going to hear your story, and um, and it kind of holds you back really when you start to think about, what am I going to say the right things? Are people
Yeah.
going to judge me? Are they going to give me negative feedback? But I guess really, my self confidence has probably grown quite massively in the last 3 years, especially once I did all my training to be a hypnotherapist and a life coach. And I tend to think now, I tend to not focus too much on what people's opinions are of me.
Okay.
And I tend to just worry about what's within my control. And what's the worst that anybody could say, right, about me doing a podcast?
So with your training, what did you have to do to get here in terms of be a registered hypnotherapist?
Yeah, so I attended a course. I had a wonderful trainer, Haley, and it was quite a practical course. So you get taught all the theory work, but then you have to do the practice, as well with it. And it was quite hard work to take on, especially when you get to your 40s, and then you sometimes start to think to yourself, well, can I learn anything more? But of course you can. I think you can. Your brain
Yeah.
can still keep learning new skills and new ways of doing things until the day you die. So that was my course in its entirety. And I suppose because I've got purpose behind it and passion, I absolutely love doing it, and I still stand by the fact that for me, there's no greater reward on this planet than helping somebody else.
So it's been a 3-year journey then to get to this point.
Yeah, the training wasn't 3 years.
Right.
But when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, I've experienced death within the family, like losing my grandma, but I've never lost somebody who was really close to me. So I went through a really emotional cycle because we were in lockdown, and I couldn't see anybody other than my mum and my dad and my brother at the time. And it was hard. I was living with my brother, and my brother was spending a lot of his time at my parents helping for care for my dad. And I just remember breaking down in tears one day in my bedroom, and I had nobody really to. I could pick up the phone and talk to friends and
Yeah.
things, but it's not the same as seeing somebody in the
Yeah.
flesh
Yeah, I get that.
and having a chat with them. So yeah, I just remember my boss ringing me one day because I had a week off, and I just cried my eyes out to her down the phone. And then she kind of said to me, "Are you ready to come back to work next week? I don't think you don't sound like you're ready in any
Yeah.
way." And work was a distraction for me at that time. But I started to then kind of go on YouTube, and I was watching loads of videos on Tony Robbins and Jay
Yeah.
Shetty, and
Been there.
and I became a bit obsessed with it. Like I kind of switched all my time from watching Netflix, as you do in
Yeah.
lockdown or whatever I was doing, to watching those videos, and I was watching them for hours and hours and hours and hours, and then I've just became obsessed with it. And there was certain things that I was learning, like practicing mindfulness and writing down gratitude, like writing down on a list before I went to bed 5 things that I was happy for in my life at the time.
Right. Okay.
And and then reading it the following morning. So it was just exercises like that, really, that really aligned my mind to think what I'm grateful for at the time, despite something that was out of my control.
Do you mind going into a bit more detail in terms of how you got to the point of what's the word I'm looking for? Got to the point of deciding that you wanted to go down this route. Did you meet a crossroads? Did you get to a point where you felt like you had to make a change in your life, or you were going to spiral? Did it get to that extent?
Yeah, it was the fight or flight path. Do I run away and soak up that hurt and that fear and start to blame everybody else? But I thought I need to look after my own mental health for the sake of my mum and my family, really. So I made a choice, and that choice was to look after my own mental health and be the best version of me I could be to support my immediate family around me going through that tragedy.
Were your family and friends aware of that you were in this predicament? Did you feel like you could talk to people, or did you shy away from it?
Yeah, I being a man, as you know, is not always the easiest thing to be open and honest with other male friends, and I don't think it's easy to talk about that. But it's just not that type of thing that happened at the time. But I did, yes, I did reach out, and some of my friends were absolutely brilliant in terms of helping me through that. But after that, I just wanted to. I didn't want anybody else to go through the same pain as what I've gone through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. That's why I say it's what I've seen. Obviously, I don't know the full details of everything. Hence why we're doing this today. But from what I've seen, it's inspirational how you've took a tragedy and you've turned it into something positive in a way. I know that sounds messed up to say, but it is. It's right, isn't it? One thing I would like to ask is, in terms of if somebody's in that position right now, what advice would you give them?
To talk.
Okay.
There's numerous avenues of help that you can get. Your family members is usually the first port of call that you'd go to, but some people don't have that. Some people are, maybe not. They don't have family at all, or they don't feel comfortable. Or they don't have that relationship with family members. And then obviously there's other help and support that you can get elsewhere. But I guess this is what I feel I'm born to do.
Yeah. Did you seek help at all?
Yeah, we had we had I've forgotten what they're called now. It's like support through work.
Oh, right,
it's not
yeah.
counselling. Well, it is counselling actually, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I didn't really get much fulfillment out of that because it's just talking about my thoughts and my feelings at the time. And I only had the one session, and I just didn't feel I got anything from that. Whereas the work I do is pretty much there's various techniques through neuro linguistic programming that can help. And there's also techniques that you don't have to have a therapist to do it with. You can do it on your own. We do what we call like an emotional freedom technique,
Okay.
which is basically like tapping, and it will help you release emotions in the moment. So you can either do that with me or with somebody else, or you could just do that on your own, for example. And it works for pretty much any emotions that you go through. So yeah.
Did you ever look into actual therapy? What you're offering now? Did you look into
No.
that, or
Didn't know it were there.
did you not?
No, not in any way, shape, or form. I just thought there was counselling.
So you researched and then you fell into this path. Then in a way, really, you
Yeah,
fell into this path and you found your purpose.
yeah, because I didn't. Everyone told me I was. My life was pretty much around. You finish school, you go get a job. Maybe it's a 9 to 5 job, which is what I was technically was in
Yeah.
some ways. And then you come home and then you get, you've got to meet somebody, then you've got to have kids, you've got to have a nice car, you've got to have a house. What society teaches us really.
So I know we're talking about how you've got to this journey and everything that's caused you to not fall into this path, but be on this path. But just tell me, and because I don't think I really know fully, and the listeners, what have you sacrificed? What changes have you had to make in your life to be put onto this path?
Yeah, so I've sacrificed quite a bit actually. I mean, my time. I had to give up weekends to go on courses, um, which I loved. When you've got a purpose and a passion, you don't mind spending your time doing that. Um, then obviously I've had to reduce my hours down in my job. I've had to walk away from a very good salary, um, and to the unknown, really. I
I bet it
mean,
was scary, wasn't it? When
well,
you
it's yeah, of course it is. Yeah, setting up your own business for the first time, and then you know nobody knows what you do, and then
Mm.
you have to get into all the social media element. Start sending a message out to everybody so everybody gets to know. So I've very much been in an uncomfortable position from a marketing myself position, doing the therapy work, confident, I could do that all day long, but does anybody know that I do it?
Yeah.
That's the challenge, and I've had to learn a lot to market myself for that. I have a lovely working mentor, if you like, or partnership with another practitioner to steer each other along. So we catch up every Sunday. I know she probably won't mind me saying her name, but Sue, she's been an inspiration to me to move forward to get things going.
So yeah, it's really inspirational to see the path that you've been on, especially all the new stuff that you've had to do over the last year or so in terms of marketing and so on. And I know I've give you a hand with that and so on. And I know I wasn't going to mention this, but I'll mention it anyway. We have done some work together, haven't we? You've hypnotized me for my fear of flying, and I can hand on heart say that now I'm not afraid. Well, I will not actively avoid going on a plane. I'm not to the point where thinking I don't want to go on holiday because I don't want to get on the plane. I've been scared of flying ever since, well, as long as I can remember, really. But the work that you did with me were fantastic. It were life changing, and it's just a small part of what you do and what you offer.
Well, so what was your experience then of that
Well,
hypnotherapy?
to be honest with you, at the start it were this is me supposed to be interviewing you, isn't it? So yeah, it were quite daunting, really. Like my dad gets hypnotized, but not the hypnotism that you did. It's on the stage. It's the fun element of it, which is completely different to what you offer. So I were a bit skeptical, to be honest with you.
I like the Paul McKenna type stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that sort of stuff. That sort of stuff. Um, so I were very skeptical, and when you did hypnotise me, the one thing that I remember coming round and saying to you, "Well, that didn't work, did it? It was 5 minutes, and it was actually 45, 50 minutes long, wasn't it?" So
Yeah.
yeah, it were it were strange, but I'm really glad that I did it. Experience, really glad. Um, and yeah, I can't thank you enough with regard to that.
So I just as we're talking about it,
Yeah.
what did you try before?
Well, I went to hypnotism when I was about 15, 16
For
at the time.
flying?
Yeah, for flying. It didn't work at all. It didn't work at all. I just remember being sat in the chair and the lady was talking to me, and I don't know if it's because I were uptight or because of my age at the time. I just couldn't. I didn't go under basically. I remember sitting up halfway through, and she actually thought that I were under. So you've obviously got something that's good about what you do. You're very good at what you do, clearly. And yeah, it sounds like a really small, mediocre thing, but for me, it were massive. It were absolutely huge.
So when I did that hypnotherapy for you,
Mm.
the script is like everything, and that took me, probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours to put that script together because it's very unique to you.
Yeah.
It's not one that's just for fear of flying and it just gets read to all the clients. I generally try to see the world as you see it through your eyes and your five senses, and then I'll build a script that's unique to you. And then obviously, we had the music,
Yeah.
so I like the entire experience to be all about you, really, and you're immersed in the entire experience throughout it to make it really work.
Like I said before, it were very strange for me, firstly, to open up and actually tell you about it, because there's very few people that actually know about it. Obviously, everybody's going to know about it now, but hey ho, not scared anymore, so it don't matter. But yeah, only close family and friends that I've been on holiday had been aware of it at the time, so it were a big step for me to actually come to you. So I can understand if people are out there and are skeptical to make that step and to make that leap to talk to you about things that they might not be 100% comfortable with admitting. But all I'd say is that do it. What's the worst that can happen? It were life changing for me, life changing. So I know I've not said this, but thank you.
No, you're more than welcome. But I've reflected on things like mental health a lot over the years, and I always remember the experiences. Obviously, with my dad and dealing with grief at the time and how to handle that. But we don't always think about putting our mental health first. Usually it's if it's something that's cosmetic, then we'll spend the money to go fix our teeth, and and that's still important. A smile is infectious, as they say. But I think investing in things like that and your mental health will give you a better fulfillment of life.
Yeah, and I think there's obviously mental health is much more in the forefront of the public eye over the last few years, and I think it's still difficult to talk about. And I think if anybody that's listening to this podcast or walking by in the street is gonna suffer at some point in their life. They're gonna suffer with self-doubt. They're gonna suffer with a loss of a loved one like you did. And the hardest step is taking that step to know when it becomes a point that you need to get help, basically. I'd be lying if I said that I've not been at that point when my granddad passed away when I was 18. It can be very, very daunting, but it's good for me because I've got somebody that I know that offers this service that works. It's been proven to work. So if I ever fall back into that situation again, touch wood, hopefully that never happen, I've got that avenue. And all I'd say to people is just take that leap, go for it. Like I said before, what is the worst that can happen? How's this turned into an interview to me? This is supposed to be me interviewing.
It's a therapy session.
Yeah,
it's a therapy session.
No, it's good though because people get to know that we're not scripting this; we're just talking, aren't we? But yeah, and I've probably never thanked you enough for what you've done for me and been a close friend throughout the years and a mentor with work as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
But yeah, going back to the questions, me interviewing you. So, what would you say is your best quality when it comes to hypnotism? What would you say that sets you apart from other people that are doing it?
So, going back to the other point I mentioned, I 100% care about the progress of a client, and I want to make sure that they have a very unique experience with me, and I put in the work beforehand. I make sure that the scripts are unique to the client at the time. I try to make sure that it's a safe place where somebody can be open and can be vulnerable as much as they want to be, and not advisory. So I never ever tell anybody what to do. All I do is help you seek the answers that are already within. To unlock your potential. And because I care about my clients, I don't just want to see a client and then booking a session next week, and then I don't talk to them until that following session next week.
Mm.
If you have mini successes, I want to celebrate them with you. Whether that's on WhatsApp through a voice note, or whether you want to pick up the phone and just have a quick chat. I'm more than happy to do that. Because I want to see people, live the full life of what they've always wanted.
That's good to hear. Like, I know obviously we're friends, so you were going to contact me after it, and you knew that I were going on holiday a few weeks after we had the session. But I can honestly say I would feel like you'd do that to anybody. It's just the sort of person you are, isn't it? So
But
yeah.
people don't know that though.
Yeah, they don't. They don't, and that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this. So what? Going right, I'm going round in a circle here, but just going right back to the beginning. Young Chris, what would you say to him now? If you could talk to him now, 8-year-old Chris, what would you say to him
That's a tough question.
about the journey that you've been on, and obviously relating to this? Do you wish you'd have done this when you were younger? I
Yeah.
know hindsight's a lovely thing, but would you change anything?
No, I guess life has molded me into who I am.
Mm.
Going through the passing of a father has made me who I am. I suppose going back and talking to young Chris, I don't know what I'd say. I'd probably say that everything's going to be okay.
Mm. And that's all people really need to hear sometimes, isn't it?
Everything will work out. In life, I suppose it does, doesn't it? And yeah, do I feel sad that I didn't find my passion and purpose till I turned 38 at the time? Yeah, but sometimes it takes people a full lifetime to find purpose
Yeah.
and passion. But what is passion?
We're not interviewing me. So, for anybody that's listening to this that doesn't know, you don't know what you offer, just in simple terms, what can you offer people?
Yeah, so my speciality is pretty much with anxiety and stress.
Okay.
So those are the two things that I have lived and breathed and gone through a lot. And they were heightened at the point of when my father passed. So I know about those two symptoms, like ins and outs. But I do behavioural change work. So we are all creatures of habit. We do things without thinking, which is in the subconscious or the unconscious mind.
Is that what we did with the flying?
Yeah. So the hypnotherapy element is all about changing your ways of thinking, breaking down those neuro pathways. So if you want to stop certain habits like vaping, smoking, drinking alcohol, eating chocolate, eating takeaways, whatever that may be.
I tick a few of them boxes.
Yeah. But yeah, I offer a service to eliminate those, so you can stop straight away.
Right.
But the fundamental thing usually I would ask a client is why now?
Right. Okay.
So that the why has to be there to make the change.
So you've got to feel like you can make a difference to that client then before you actually take them on. You want to know that they're at the point where, like you were when you made that change, that they're ready to make a change.
Yeah. If your personal why is always not strong enough, I don't think that you're always necessarily bought into the therapy work fully.
Right. Okay.
So I always ask that, in itself.
So if somebody's out there listening to this now and they're struggling, what would be a message to them? What would you say to them?
Well, to be honest, Tom, I'd probably say to them, you're not alone, and you will get through this. Try speaking to family members, be open and honest, be vulnerable if you can. I appreciate that not everybody can be. as vulnerable with other family members and the dynamics that go on in the background. But that's what I'm here for, I guess. You can pick up the phone or you can email me, and we can spend 20 to 30 minutes discussing what the problem is to determine whether I can help you or not. But there is a path through this, and you can get through this, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help.
You're a prime example of it as well, aren't you? What would you say to somebody that's wanting to change a habit then, change a behaviour?
What any behaviour?
It can be any behaviour.
All right, so let's talk about smoking. For example, again, I'd probably try to understand why. Why they want to stop smoking. Are they doing it because somebody else is telling them that they need to stop? That's probably not a good enough reason as to why. Health reasons probably are the main thing that people come to me for that. So if you you came to me with that problem and your why was good enough, then I do offer a breakthrough session, which usually lasts sort of between 3 to 3.5 hours. And literally, we will spend that entire time just going through various techniques to try and change your conscious thoughts about how you view smoking. And then, mixed in with hypnotherapy, which will break down those habits and hopefully destroy those neuro pathways, which means that you can leave my session smoke-free moving forward. But that's the service I offer. That's why that's why I'm here. You sometimes will ask people, what other methods have you tried? So they say the usual things like I've cut down, but then something triggers the response for me to have a cigarette, like I've had a stressful day at work or something along them lines. But this 3.5 hour session will hopefully change your entire way that you think about that habit.
Right. Okay. So, how do people get in contact with you then? How do they find out about more you do? Yeah. How do they get in contact with you?
So I've got a website, which is chrisleathercoaching.com, where you can find me on Google or through any other web browser. I'm also on social media. So I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. Not that I go on TikTok that much, because I've only just started using TikTok, and I thought, God, this is an addictive service. So, I thought, no wonder people start scrolling on that every time.
People might want help with that addiction.
Well, yeah.
I know a lot of people that are in that position. I know you've obviously tried to stay off social media, haven't you?
And I've had to go. Yeah,
you've had to, because a business, it's the way the world works now. But yeah.
Yeah. So on my website's the primary way, and then you can email me if you feel more comfortable to do that, or you can just fill in a form on my website, and I aim to get back to you within hopefully between 24 and 48 hours.
Right. Okay. Well, it's been new. It's been an experience. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and yeah, thanks for the invite. I've enjoyed it.
No, I've loved you coming on here, because it must be quite uncomfortable for you to come on here.
I'm a bit worried about what people are going to say and think, but yeah, it's an experience. But you've helped me a lot. So it's the least I can do.
Thanks, Tom.
No problem. Well, hopefully people will reach out now and seek your help.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Thanks
right, thanks very much.